If everyone's ready, let's begin. Welcome to the Precious Timber webinar today. My name is Craig Hawley. I'm the chairman of the advisory board and head of strategic planning for Precious Timber. Joining me today is the CEO and president of Precious Timber, Alex Wilson. And we will be specifically discussing timber, although we'll give an overview of several different topics that have to do with our conversation today. Also joining us are some clients that have recently attended a tour. We have monthly tours down to Central America, in this case Nicaragua. We have Sue and Art from California. We have John from Nebraska. And we have Bud and Marcelly, I hope I said your name right, from Panama. All clients and all have been recently on tours, and we're going to hear from them later on in the webinar. The webinar isn't just for people like ourselves. What we're finding now is that more of the rich and famous are finding Nicaragua is a destination spot for not only real estate and investments, but also for vacation. White Muckle Douglas and Morgan Freeman are flocking to Nicaragua for getaways. Well, they've seen it for themselves, and the more that they experience it, the more they realize this is a fantastic place. And fact, we actually...
Craig, if you'll excuse me, this is Alex Wilson. In fact, I found something just an hour or so ago. You're right, not only are they going there, are the rich and famous going there, of course, investors and adventure seekers and world travelers have found Nicaragua to be an interesting place the last 16 or so years. But watch this very short clip. Not only are the rich and famous going there, they're actually talking about it on TV. Watch this. It takes up.
So we want to thank Morgan Freeman and the mayor of Clarksdale, Mississippi, Bill Luckett, for joining us today, and obviously you as well. Now, we're going to talk to Bill in a second, but Morgan, let's play rapid fire questions, okay? Ready? All right. What's your favorite word? So sorry. So sorry, you guys. I asked it. He answered it. What's your favorite vacation spot?
It has been the British Virgin Islands,
yeah.
But it may change. We just got back from Nicaragua.
Liked it?
That was nice. We liked it.
Yeah. Beautiful place.
He's a sailor. Did you guys know this? Your drink of choice. What's your poison?
So there you have it. If the audio was a little low, but even on TV now, you have Morgan Freeman, who, by the way, on the article that I read, said that he's kind of a spa buff. He said the best spa that he's ever been to in any part of the world is now in Nicaragua. So you did make a good point, Craig. The rich and famous are going and enjoying it just as much as we have been for the last 15 years.
Yeah, and we want to make it very clear that our corporate focus is on people, planet, and profits. We're not only going down there to improve our own portfolios, but we're also helping school children, their education we have a school chair program that we've designed so that the children aren't literally sitting on the dirt floors. They have chairs and desks now to sit on to help them learn. We support the elderly who are still suffering some repercussions of the revolution that they won many, many years ago, but they still need help. Precious Timber has created hundreds and hundreds of jobs for people that would have never had the chance in life that this opportunity is provided for them. We're very socially conscious, and we're also very concerned about the environment as well. Those are all pieces of the puzzle of our people, planet, and profit model, along with our tagline, "We grow money," because that's literally what we do. Today we're going to focus on a primary aspect of the business, which is the timber. And Alex is going to take over now and talk a little bit about how we do that and what that all looks like down in Nicaragua and the timber business. Alex?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. We'll spend about 15 minutes here just focusing on timber as an asset class. And even though we do grow coconuts and we're very close to adding on another crop, probably early next year, we take our time to do a lot of research. Ken and his crews have extensive reports that they draw up for me to take a look at and make a final decision on whether or not we're going to experience and explore and and get into something else, but we're very close to introducing a third crop to our portfolio. But like Craig says, today's message is mainly on timber and mainly on the tours. And so let's talk about timber, first of all, quickly as an asset class. It's an asset class that the wealthy, I'm talking the very affluent of society, are very, very familiar with. Families that generally have net worths in the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars. And so the question on the screen is, why is timber so popular with the super wealthy? There's three individuals on the screen, and you probably could recognize at least one of them on the far right. That's a good old Ted Turner. Ted Turner is the second largest timber owner and real estate owner in the US of A. He owns just a little over 2.2 million acres. The guy to his left actually is the number one timber and real estate owner in the country. That's another media mogul. That's John Malone. And then the fellow on the far left, he made his billions, and these are all billionaires. He made his billions in tobacco. And when he sold his company, he put exactly 1/3 of his net worth in timberland. So Brad Kelly is one of the top 5 timberland owners. Why are they so bullish, and why do they own so much timber? Well, there's one major fundamental difference between how a billionaire invests and how the rest of us invest. And of course, one of the reasons is they have all the money. And so what is the main difference? Well, in my discussions with our clients, and many of our clients are what I would consider successful. Some of them are in the affluent upper echelon, in the hundreds of million dollar net worth. But the main difference I find between people that have timber in their portfolio and people that don't have timber in their portfolio is that they're long-term investors, where the average investor is a short-term investor. The wealthy think in multi-decade time frames. They don't think in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. They're thinking in multi-decades, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100. Some of them even tell me they're thinking 200 years ahead. Whereas the average investor, I feel, is basically focused on their own nest egg, their own retirement. We invest for my retirement. I want to be able to, in my retirement, not have money problems, have enough to address all my health issues. They're really not thinking about generationally passing on that wealth as much as the affluent are. The affluent also have this never lose mentality. Of course, if you've got billions of dollars, you want to keep billions of dollars. Well, I can say that's the same for those of us that have millions, and maybe it's the same for people that have thousands. We don't want to lose it, but the way we invest is very different. The two families on the screen right now are two wealthy families. On the right, you'll see Donald Trump with his kids. And on the left, you'll see the Cargill family. The Cargill family owns the world's largest privately held corporation. They both happen to be heavily invested in real estate. The Cargills on the left are probably one of the world's largest agricultural landowners. And Trump has become one of the most successful high-end golf course owners across the world. My point is, the affluent focus on transferring that wealth to the next generation, and a cornerstone of their portfolio, you're going to learn in the next few slides, happens to be the one investment asset class that the average investor has never, ever held. We're talking about timber. Now, one thing that the average investor loves when they're looking at an investment, because I get this question consistently, is, well, it's not very liquid. And the wealthy hate liquidity. They despise liquidity in their investments. They understand that short-term thinking from a financial point of view is the number one enemy of their long-term success. So what I'm getting at is the fundamental difference between the way the average investor invests and thinks and the way the affluent think. And I have a question, and it's a simple question. Why aren't we all thinking the same? You don't have to have billions of dollars to fundamentally approach investing the same way that the affluent do. I've been recommending this book for the last 2 years, and I think it's still probably the best book that I've read when it comes to finding the ways in which to protect and grow your wealth the most safest. The book is called The Alternative Answer. The author is Bob Rice, and the subtitle is The Non-Traditional Investments That Drive the World's Best Performing Portfolios. In other words, the portfolios over the last decade or two that have doubled and doubled and doubled again, whilst the average investor has seen meager, anemic growth. In fact, I was talking to someone today that was telling me he's finally, after 15 years, his statement from, and I won't mention the big box brokerage house, he's finally back to where his net worth was in the year 2000. And in the inside cover of this book, you'll see the very first asset class that comes up is timber. Timber is the #1 held alternative asset of the affluent. Jeremy Grantham runs a multi-billion-dollar fund. You can only be part of this fund if you have a certain net worth. $110 billion under management. And Jeremy has been a big proponent and a big owner of timber for decades. In fact, he says it's the only low-risk, high-return asset class, and it's the best investment, best long-term investment in his mind that he's ever had. And of course, more billionaires on the right that own timber. Here's why the affluent like timber. First of all, you're planting a sapling, a baby sapling, that little tiny twig of a tree. Then they like to forget about their investments that have this capability. They don't want to keep tracking it. They don't want to keep watching it. They don't particularly want to be following the markets and the traditional marketplace, the economy, the world affairs. They forget about it. And then eventually it's time to harvest and replant. It's really one of those few asset classes that takes care of itself, because a tree doesn't care about what the stock market is doing. It doesn't care what the bond market is doing. It doesn't care about this 2-year situation that we have right now in the U.S. trying to figure out who's going to be the next president. A tree just grows and grows and grows. Let's take a look at the returns. Let's see how timber's done in comparison to other asset classes then. Here's from 1987 to 2013, and the reason I chose this chart is because this shows the timberland returns from when they started to track timber as an asset class in the U.S. It was 1987. They never tracked it before 1987. And from 1987 to 2013, when you compare it to bonds or the S&P 500, you can see bonds are down there in the 5 or 6%, and the S&P's maybe at around 10.5%, but timber's up at 13%. An average of 13%. In fact, if you go out a little longer, you'll find that it's about 15%. So timber's been the best performing asset class of the recent past. And even though we talked about the long-term investor being the wealthy, most of us only invest in any event for 30 or 40 years. If you've had 30 years of volatility, like most people keeping 70% of their portfolio in the stock market, wouldn't it be a good idea to hold something that can compound at 12 and 15% on an annualized basis? That's why the wealthy like timber. In fact, if you take a look and you compare it to gold, real estate, stocks, timberland since 1910 has been way healthier, way healthier. And of course, the wealthy stash it away for the profits, but the average investor's totally missed out. Let me just show you why they like this long-term approach and why I try to teach our clients that don't have this long-term approach to embrace it. You don't even have to make a large return on investment for it to work. For a 40-year period, let's say we average 6%, and we're investing long-term as opposed to this instant gratification mentality that most people have because they got to be in and out of the markets and got to try to time this next IPO. Even if you're making 6% a year, $100,000 turns into $1 million over 40 years. Now, some of us may say, well, $1 million is not going to carry me through my retirement. But what if you're earning the average returns that timber produces? What does $100,000 look like over 40 years at timber average returns? Well, it's no longer $1 million. It's $9 million. Long-term, slow, steady, excellent returns. Some of you may be familiar with Steve Sugarud, works currently with the Stansberry Group. He has his own newsletter and an investment letter called True Wealth. Steve shows in one of his articles what $100,000 looked like and looks like today if it was invested in 1971, and then he gives you the annual returns of timber for the last 40 years, from 71 all the way through until 2010. And I want you to take a look on this screen. There were 5 negative years for timber, and the worst over the last 40 years was the year 2001, when timber dropped 5.2%. Look what timber did in 2008 when the stock market crashed. Up 9.5%. So $100,000 from 71 to 2010 turned into $15 million, according to Steve Sugarud. Let me tell you, some people get this, and it's generally the wealthy. And Yale and Harvard have got it too. No longer are they using the traditional 70-30 model. They abandoned that a long time ago. If you get the book and read the book Alternative Answer, you'll find that Yale and Harvard have a very small position, a very small exposure to the stock market. It's just the average investor that has 70% of their portfolio tied up in the roller coaster stock market. Yale has 6% of its portfolio in the stock market. Harvard has fully 10% of their $30 billion, $3 billion. They own forests in Central and South America. And here's why. Because almost 60% of that return that we've just discussed comes from biological growth. They love the fact that Mother Nature grows their money more than they love the fact that Wall Street is managing their money. If 60% of your return is eminent because of Mother Nature, it's kind of a nice sleep well at night clause. So maybe we could look at the portfolio allocation of these super wealthy, of these endowments, of these institutions, and read the Alternative Answer, and you'll find that it's not a 70-30 split. It's 45 to 50%, 40 to 50% in alternative assets, 10 to 20% in real estate, 10 to 20% in stocks, 5% in bonds, and 5% in cash or cash equivalents. Very different than what the institution, I should say the big box financial houses have us believe. Finally, as we wrap this section up about why timber is so important, especially those families that are super wealthy that have people, either family members or independent financial professionals that run their family offices. For those of you that understand family offices, you know that a family office is generally a structure within a family that concentrates on making sure that that wealth is generationally passed on. So they're investing in items with 50 to 100 year windows. Now, we've talked about timber. We've talked about why the wealthy own it. I've shared with you why the average person, for some reason, doesn't. But 99 out of 100 people that I talk to about timber, they say, well, I'd never heard of this. It can't be true. It's too good. But the one thing I think we all understand and we can all agree on is that in our investing life, we're going to go through some boom cycles and we're going to go through some bust cycles. And it seems to be, at least in my opinion, the last 15 years, these booms get crazier and the busts are getting even more devastating. So I have a question for you. When do you think the economy is going to collapse again? Do you think the economy is going to collapse again? Only you can answer that. I have my feeling on it. I've been watching and reading, and all we can do as investors is stay ahead of what we think is going to happen and make sure that we structure the assets that we hold to at least safeguard ourselves from what happened in 2008. I think there's another one coming, and today I was fortunate to spend an hour or so watching a great video, and I'm going to send you this link. Everyone that's on the webinar tonight, I'm going to send you this link from former U.S. Budget Director David Stockton. David Stockton was the architect of President Reagan's economic turnaround, and he's warning right now of this looming collapse of the free market prosperity and how it's going to devastate America's wealth. Not only just the wealthy are going to get hit. The wealthy are going to get hit probably as hard as we're going to get hit. But there are a lot of things that we can do. They've done it. We've done it. And some of our clients have done it. It's a great, great 45-minute piece called Sundown in America. I'll send you the link after the webinar. Here's what David Stockton is predicting. He's predicting that within the next 5 to 6 years, this current boom, this current cycle that we're in is going to crash, and it's going to be worse than the last one. And real estate, traditional real estate, where a lot of average investors go because they've been sold on this California, this America dream that owning real estate is the American dream. Listen, we have to have somewhere to live. I understand that. There's people that need rental units, and some of us own some rental units, but we just saw what can happen, and we see it all the time. But he predicts a 40 to 50% drop in real estate prices, a 60 to 70% drop in the stock market here eventually. Probably not immediately, but certainly over a 2-year period, the stock market could come down, in his mind, another 60 to 70%. And he actually sees deflation. He actually sees gold falling. I'm not a big gold bug. Some of my clients talk to me all the time about how much gold they own. But one thing's for sure, on this next downturn, panic is going to set in. People are going to freak out, and people are going to get hurt. There's two things that he believes, and I believe, if we have it in our portfolio, if we're holding on to these things, we're going to be able to protect ourselves somewhat. The first one is cash. A lot of people say, well, I don't like keeping cash. Cash is really, really good to have sometimes because markets invariably over periods of time introduce to us buying opportunities. And if you don't have the cash, you can't pounce on them. So even though this reckoning, this day of reckoning is probably going to occur, it's not going to be the end of America. We had this happen in the UK in the late 1960s, and we had a whole decade, the decade of discontent. But if you had cash and you could go out and buy things, you did very, very well. So cash is important. And hard assets, and there's nothing more stable in downturns than timber. Look what happened in the last 2 downturns. In the worst downturn that America ever felt, in 1929, when stocks fell 75%, timber rose 233%. And in the most recent downfall, when the stock market fell 37%, timber rose 9.5%. Now, talking quickly about gold, some people on the call today may think that gold's going to double. Well, let's just have a little exercise, shall we? If gold doubles from where it is today over the next 20 years, say, then if you have $1 million in gold, you did well, you doubled your money if gold goes from $1,200 an ounce to $2,400 an ounce. Doubled your money in the next 20 years. And even if it's 10, doesn't matter what the cycle is. But what happens if gold falls? See, gold is really not a great investment. It's a good place to have some, capital where you can quickly get it to cash. But if you take a look at the charts in gold over any period of time, it's actually a lousy investment. But what happens if gold does the opposite, like some people believe, and it actually falls and you have $1 million in gold? Well, obviously, you're going to lose. You're going to lose, almost 45% of your money. I want to compare that to timber and why we like timber more than we like gold. And this is an important slide that's coming up, so I want you to really focus on this. Remember, we put $1 million. Some people have $1 million in gold. Let's say you put $1 million in timber, and we won't play that guessing game, will it go up or will it go down? Because that's what can happen. Gold could just as easily go up as it could go down. But we're talking about timber now, $1 million in timber. And let's say it does nothing but stays the same. Let's face it, in the last 40 years, the worst it ever did was 5.2% down in 1 year. It's averaged 12 or 13%. But in this example, I'm saying timber goes nowhere in the next 20 years. $1 million into timber in Nicaragua in one of our programs. When you harvest that timber at the same price that it is today that we sell board feet of lumber for, it didn't go up at all in value. The timber stayed the exact same price. You have $7 million worth of lumber to sell. $7 million. Now, I'm going to add the opposite side. I'm going to look at the other side of the coin. Let's say that timber today that we're selling at $2.42 a board foot that would have turned into $7 million if the price of timber stayed the same. What would happen if we had the same thing happen as gold? Gold fell. Let's say timber values fell 50%. We no longer made $7 million. We cannot sell the timber for the same price. We have to sell it for half as much. So your $1 million only becomes $3.5 million. That's why we like timber more than we do gold. Because if gold goes down, I lose. If timber goes down, I still win. That's why the affluent love timber. Craig's going to invite us later on in the presentation to invite you to request our white papers. I'll request that you also ask for our precious metals versus precious timber white paper, which will outperform over the next 20 years. Craig, back to you.
Thank you, Alex. That was fantastic information there. I want to remind everybody that we have tours down there every month, but in June 13th through the 15th, the Retirement Loft is going to have a special discovery tour. And these tours are really comprised of 2 or 3 days, depending on your stay, touring the plantations, getting to know the people, seeing everything firsthand, experiencing the country. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Most of our clients have either gone down prior to participating, or what's also exciting is clients that have already bought some trees and go down and visit their trees, never seen the plantations before, and it's always get a kick out of watching their expressions when they see what they actually have growing right out of the ground. And turn it back to Alex here to talk about the Retirement Loft a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I just want to interject there that the Retirement Loft is a great organization. If you don't know about the Retirement Loft, go to retirementloft.com. Fabulous online place for education. It's run by Tom Garlock. Tom will be joining us on the Retirement Loft tour. Now, you don't have to be a Retirement Loft member to join us on the 13th through 15th in a couple of weeks. A lot of their members are going to be there. It's a great place if you have a self-directed IRA. As you know, those of us that have self-directed IRAs, we can invest in the things that we want to invest, where we want to invest, as long as we're doing it under the IRS's guidebook and rule. but great investment strategies, great investment opportunities. Tom and his crew have put a tremendous website together. I would invite you, if you've never been, to theretirementloft.com to visit that website. It really is a good place.
We also want to talk about our next tours coming up will be June 27th and 28th, and also July 25th to 26th. And if you have questions on getting to Nicaragua, it's actually quite simple. From Los Angeles, it's about 5 hours. From Atlanta, about 3.5. 3 hours from Houston, 2.5 from Miami, and a coach seat ranges between $400 and $600. Very easy transport. The hotels that we recommend average from $100 to $200 a night. Some are situated, like you see the one in the left corner there, right on the beach in Samuel del Sur. I mean, you literally walk across the street and you're at the beach. The other one on the right is a little bit farther up the hill, but you get more of a landscape and terrain views. And the tour is free. All you have to do is get there. The space is limited, so we encourage you, if you're interested in coming down, to let us know as the tours fill up quickly. And we only have a number of seats that we can provide on these tours. So we highly recommend it from the aspect of seeing the country and experiencing it firsthand. But, you know, these are our words. What we'd like to do now is talk to some people who have actually been on the tour, our clients, and listen in their own words as to what they think about this entire situation. So if I could first speak with Art and Sue, are you on the line?
Yes, we are. We're both on the line.
All right. Well, welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yes. Fine. Yep.
All right. Tell us a little bit of your experience and how you found out about Nicaragua, how you found out about the opportunity that we're presenting here. What was kind of some of the things that swayed your decision to actually go forward with it, and what your overall experience was like?
Well, this is Art, and we've been going to Nicaragua for about 5 years, and we've seen it go from on the main highways, you know, encountering cattle and human-powered carts, to everybody owning pickup trucks and 60 miles an hour. So we've seen progress in Nicaragua in 5 years. So we're not shy about investing in Nicaragua. You know, it's encouraging to see a country like Nicaragua that's been so devastated by a revolution starting to pick up. It's a good time to invest. We've been looking to diversify across multiple countries, and this provides that. We've been actually looking for timber investments for a while. Most of what we found is REITs in the U.S., but that doesn't give us the international diversity. We like the people in Nicaragua. It's the thing that keeps us coming back.
What impressed you most about the country and the plantation?
I tell you what I was most impressed with the plantation was the organization. I didn't know quite what to expect going there, but I was very impressed with the entire team, the caliber of the people that you hire. It made me very confident that you had a sustainable business and that it would be there in years to come, which, because let's face it, it's a long-term business. And by the end of the trip, we were absolutely convinced that this is what we wanted to invest in, and we haven't changed our mind since. And I can't say that we haven't changed our mind on some other investments that we've made internationally.
Let me ask you, if someone's listening on the call tonight and they're still kind of concerned about that word Nicaragua, you and Art, you've been going for 5 years. What would you say to someone? How would they start out doing their research? What are the kinds of things that you could help them with?
Well, as far as starting the research, I would say a planned tour like Alex offers is a very good way to go. It offers kind of a very vacation as well as investment insight. But like I say, we've seen progress being made, and I don't think it's going to be stopped. I think it's just beginning. So we're very happy to see the country emerge, from kind of a gloomy past into opportunity.
What you just said there.
And our sales team, would you say we're easy to get along with? Are we pushy salespeople? What's your interaction been like with our sales force?
Well, Alex, everybody but you is fine.
Well, at least you're honest.
Just kidding.
No, just kidding. No, actually, it's the contrary. I would say you're not pushy at all. It's you're very responsive. Every question we've had all the way along has been answered. Art and I are really busy people. We've got 2 big jobs, and we sometimes we're not on the ball with taking care of stuff. We've been very patient.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very impressed with the entire team.
Thank you very much for that.
Interesting that you said, Art, Sue, that how it was a combination of really a vacation and an investment tour, and it truly is. It's an enjoyable time because not only do we see plantations and landscape, but we share dinners and lunches and great conversation, and you come home with a lot more friends than you started out with.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. We've made friends on the tour, and yeah, it really is a vacation. You're not. I've never been on one of those timeshare condo weekend things that they advertise, but I can imagine it's about a 180 from that.
And if you're really lucky, Craig will get on his guitar and sing some songs.
Yes, indeed.
You guys were there for that. That's right.
Oh yeah.
That was very impromptu. Well, thank you so much. Let's go to John. John, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Once again, just share with us a little bit about your experience, as much as you can from start to finish.
Well, I found out about Maderas Futuro from Dave Drummond, who's currently in Belize. I called Alex and spoke with him over the phone a number of times. I asked Alex for some references, and he checked with people who were willing to speak with me, and I called them up and spoke with them. And so my wife and I were comfortable with the idea of investing in Nicaragua. We have looked at also investing in Costa Rica, so we're familiar with Central America and comfortable with that. I agree with Art and Sue that certainly the area has demonstrated progress economically. And like Sue, I was impressed with the people. I think Norma would say that that Alex and Ken and others are respectful of people. She likes that, appreciates that. I was impressed that the people and the systems are in place to continue the work, even if Alex and Ken decide to retire or move on, although I don't think they will. I was also impressed with the longevity of the key staff. They keep good people there, and they don't go off elsewhere. To me, that's usually a sign of a good company, that people want to stay there and work for them. And I was also impressed that Maderas Futuro has favor with the local government. You guys work well with them. They appreciate you. You can see that as evidenced by the plaques in certain areas and the library there that you guys built, as well as all the school desk. So we were just impressed to see how well Maderas Futuro fits in to San Juan del Sur and how the people have responded.
So what would you say was
I'm so glad that you guys got a chance to go. I know you had a lot of great questions for me initially, and it was an educational process that you have to go through. With regards to what you ended up, obviously you don't want to get personal on this, but with regards to what you ended up deciding for your own personal sort of financial goals, if someone is thinking about this space, if thinking about agriculture, you went through this, how would you recommend someone take a look at it?
Well, I agree with what Art said earlier. It helps to talk with people who've worked with Medeiros Futuro, and then to go and see for yourself. I think there's something to be said about meeting people and seeing the other staff that you don't talk with on the phone, seeing how they interact with the senior staff. That to me is very telling. And I think you make a very persuasive argument as to the value of having non-traditional asset allocation by looking at timberland. And what's nice about Medeiros Futuro is that you allow the non-millionaire to have access to timberland.
And you must have some Spanish in your background, because you're one of about 3 of our several clients that can actually pronounce Medeiros Futuro correctly, and I thank you for that. But we did recently get smart. When we named the company several years ago, we named it a Spanish name, Wood being Medeiros and Futuro being future. I remember being at a convention somewhere in the U.S. About a year ago, and I did a speech, and as I walked out of the room, I heard this nice old lady say to her husband, "Wasn't that man a nice man? And he gave a nice speech. What was the name of his firm again?" And so that's why we've tried to move a little bit recently to Precious Timber. And so you'll find that we're staying Medeiros Futuro, but our website and everything is going to move to Precious Timber. So that one probably even I can pronounce.
Well, thank you, John. Bud and Marcelin, are you on the line?
Yes, we are, Craig.
All right. I hope I'm pronouncing your name. Is it Marcelin? Is that correct?
It's correct. Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys are right now in Panama. Is that correct?
Yes, I first came here in 2001. This is our permanent residence. We own no property in the U.S.
Well, share with us a little bit of your story, how you got involved with this project.
Marcelin and I have been looking for a long time for some way to, I'll use the word diversify, but really to, maybe it's more correct to say internationalize ourselves so that we're not totally inside the U.S. We are retirees, and we believe that part of what Alex talked about earlier is coming. We just don't know when or the degree of the pain that's going to be experienced. But we had never been able to find a way to move our assets out of the U.S. until, by a fluke of circumstances, last September we became aware of a meeting in January, and that's when we met Dave Drummond, and Marcelin met Alex Wilson there at a meeting in Cancun in Mexico, and we looked at each other and said, this is the answer. Why did it take all these years to finally find the answer? We started moving forward, and then being fairly cautious, I wanted to see it myself. And so John, who spoke earlier, said part of his time there was a vacation. Ours was not a vacation. Although we did some sightseeing, we wanted to, because we live in Panama, we wanted to be able to see what we were getting into, not just the Medeiros Futuro part of it, but also the country and the people. What about the infrastructure? How stable is the government? Those kinds of things. And so we wanted to see it ourselves. And so we started moving forward, but the big thing was in the May 16-17 discovery tour that we did. I came away with a feeling of it's a family. It's a long-term view. Alex asked, I think it was John earlier in this webinar about the hard sell aspect and the marketing. I don't recall that I ever saw any marketing while I was there at San Juan del Sur, because it's so low key. They answered every question. They took care of every aspect that needed to be taken care of. We met Ken Ross's wife, Lily. She's a real asset for this undertaking. And we just came away with, this is a long-term, very stable, look at it and make it work. And so we truly understand the people, planet, and profits in that order. I'll be quiet now and let Marcelin say what she wants to say.
Greg, I would just say that we first started learning about precious timber in Cancun last January, have been doing a lot of due diligence, checking into looking for things that would fit our need, where we would put our retirement money to protect it. And I would say that precious timber, and particularly the coconut aspect that we decided on, this investment opportunity is everything that we hoped for, and certainly better than we expected. And I say that because the team members that we met in Nicaragua, the whole sales force, we considered them good people. We thought they were very honest, hardworking, hard in what they did. We trusted them. We felt good, and we also felt secure about the country. We didn't have any incident in Nicaragua that would cause us alarm or cause us to have any fear at all. I certainly would classify us as the average investor, probably a little more cautious, a little more detailed than the average person who has millions to invest. But we were well pleased, happy as we can be with what we're doing. I would suggest this opportunity for anybody.
Well, we really
Thank you so
appreciate
much, guys, everyone. Thank you for, from the bottom of my heart. I'll speak for Ken as well and Lily. This is the kind of, obviously we hear this a lot, and we are always moved, emotionally moved by the power of your words. This is how we set this up. This isn't something that we thought of to sell to others. Ken and I have a lot of skin in this game. We've been down in this country for a long, long time. We actually are the beneficiaries way more so than our employees. Yes, we've done some things for the locals. Yes, we've put some programs together, and of course anyone would. We're not special by any stretch of the imagination. Anyone that was exposed to it when we would have done the same thing, I think. But one of the things that Ken and I often talk about and also pray about is how fortunate we have been in being able to impact the many lives that we have, but also how lucky we are because of the things that they have taught us in our attempt to teach them. So I just have one question for Bud and Marcelin, and then we'll move on to Craig and what Craig has to say about finishing up the webinar here. But you guys obviously moved. You've uprooted from the U.S. You've gone to Central America. If you could, just maybe a minute or two in your own words for those people that are thinking that this region is still as it was in the 70s. Maybe you could just share, your retirees. You obviously feel safe in this part of the world. If you could just add maybe one or two more tidbits as to why someone should take the leap, get on a plane, and go experience it.
To me, it's just a real adventure. Bud and I are world travelers. We've traveled to Libya, Egypt, Africa, all of the places that you might think most people would never even consider going to. We're still traveling, and we're still looking for other investments outside the U.S. This is not a scary thing at all. To me, it's an adventure in life, and you need to look at the opportunity and enjoy it.
To add to what Marceline just said, there are some negatives, but one of the things that we see very, very distinctly different about living as an international couple is that family is much more important in Latin cultures. Sometimes we get frustrated when we go to the grocery store and can't find vanilla extract, for example, or things that people take for granted in the U.S. It gets kind of frustrating, and the Mañana syndrome is very much alive, not only in Panama, but also in Nicaragua, all the Latin countries, Central and South America. But it's not scary. If you can open up and allow yourself to slow down and not seek or demand instant gratification, you will begin to see a lot more about what life is about. It's people caring about people rather than how quickly can I get enough money to go buy a new BMW or whatever. It's just very rewarding in very fundamental ways about what life really is, rather than the plastic life of a more cosmopolitan world. With that, I think I should shut up.
Oh, it's fantastic. Alex, if I could, I'd like you to talk just briefly for a moment about the coconut, because we've got a graphic up there, and we've mentioned it briefly. You know, our focus is on timber. If you could just talk a little bit about that.
I will. Quickly, coconuts are a tree that we introduced last year after an extensive study by Ken and his crews. We don't take on things lightly, as I said, but we did know from all of the people that talked to us about coconuts. I know from my own family bringing in coconut products that it was a great commodity, a growing commodity. The demand has been exceeding supplies for the last few years. So we had to find ourselves an expert. And it took us a couple of years before we found the right individual. His name's Leslie. He's been in the coconut business now for 17 years, taking care of a small family coconut farm on the Atlantic side of Nicaragua. He's our main guy. He's doing a lot of research for us now with regards to what products that we will produce, because we do intend to be Nicaragua's first fully integrated coconut firm. We're going to be growing them ourselves and then processing them ourselves and selling the products. That's the plan. We planted many, many thousands last year, but this year we'll plant well over 100,000, maybe even, I think Ken told me the other day, 125,000 coconut trees most likely will go into the ground in Nicaragua for ourselves and our clients in 2015, which then puts us as the largest coconut grower in all of Central America. So we're still young in that business. And I remember talking to you just a few days ago. Craig is a licensed insurance agent, and you mentioned something to me that I thought was kind of fascinating.
Well, what we talked about was that the coconut acts like an annuity, where you put your principal in, and an annuity over time will pay you a dividend back over the term of the program that you've looked into purchasing. And the coconut works similarly, that the coconut starts to grow nuts after 4, 5, 6 years. But the only difference is a coconut will grow for 40 to 50 to 60 years, where annuities do not pay that long. So a coconut acts like an annuity, but pays much longer period of time. And is the other thing about the coconut is just such demand throughout the world right now that it's a growing market, and it's always good to have money into something that is on the upswing and not the downswing. The remaining pictures that you're seeing on the screen are parts of the tours, some of the timber, and there's one little aspect. If you stay possibly a day longer, there is some local real estate tours that we also provide that I'll have Alex talk about right now.
Yeah, the real estate market in Nicaragua is back doing the same thing that it was in the early 2000s. It's starting to get a lot of attention, mainly from Asian citizens, also from some North Americans and from Europeans. But 2.5 million tourists go to Costa Rica every year, and now almost 1.5 million tourists go to Nicaragua. So it's way cheaper. The real estate is probably a half of the price of Costa Rica, maybe a half of the price of some of the expensive locations in Panama. It's certainly way less expensive than a country like Belize that has been having a lot of foreign investment. So if you're looking for real estate other than agricultural real estate, maybe Nicaragua is a place that you'll take a look at. If you are staying that extra half a day with us, we'll take you to a few sites, north and south, along this beautiful, absolutely spectacular bay of San Juan del Sur, where even the cruise ships now are bringing people to check out Nicaragua's exciting times. In fact, I noticed just the other day on the New York Times website that there was an article about many people retiring on the beach to Nicaragua, and you'll see the small picture there. There's a house that was built by a friend of ours. He's actually a retired NBA basketball star, played for the Lakers, played for the New York Knicks. That's his house right there on the northern peninsula of San Juan del Sur. So many people go to Nicaragua, have been for a long time, and purchasing and enjoying the real estate. Some magazines that you're probably familiar with also talking about Nicaragua.
Well, in conclusion, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We have the Retirement Loft Tour June 13th through the 15th. The tours that we give primarily for interested clients through our own endeavors are June 27th through the 28th, and again in July the 25th through the 26th. We also encourage you to, we also provide an itinerary for what happens on those tours. From the beginning of the first day through the tours, a little bit through Managua and seeing the mills there, seeing a little bit of the countryside, then driving out to the plantation, spending the evening in San Juan del Sur at night, and then venturing out to some of the other plantations the next day, along with seeing a vast amount of the beautiful countryside there. If you're interested in any of our white papers, you can request it at info@precioustimber.com, or just go to our website, precioustimber.com, to the contact page and request the white papers there. We also encourage you to, we've recently launched a new site that is very interactive and also works well on iPads and your phones as well. So it's designed to do that. We have blog listings that are updated almost daily, lots of videos, lots of replays of these webinars if you want to watch it again. And we want to thank everyone for joining us. On behalf of Alex Wilson and myself, Craig Colley, thank you for joining us at our Precious Timber webinar today, where we grow money. Thank you, folks.